Hey guys, this is Benny Ricciardi, and I'm here with our DraftKings NBA video for Thursday, March 24th. Now, it's a small slate. I think we only have 5 games going on tonight. But what I did want to talk about is something that, a lot of people don't really utilize, and it's something that can help you with your overall NBA fantasy scores. And that's taking a look at the recent price moves on players and finding some guys who are undervalued today or who have slipped back into a category where at the price they're at, they could be a value play, as opposed to when they were priced a little bit higher. So let's call up the slideshow and talk about some guys at every point on the price spectrum that we can look at today and why the price change matters for them. So the 4 guys we're going to look at today on this Holy Thursday sale are LeBron James, who's down to 9,200, Al-Farouq Aminu, who's down to 3,700, Brook Lopez, who's down to 7,300, and Kristaps Porzingis, who's down to 5,400. So the first guy we'll look at is LeBron. This is an interesting game to me because it's a closer spread than I would have expected for the Cavaliers against Brooklyn. Vegas thinks that this game is going to stay close, so if that's the case, we'll probably get full run out of most of the starters for the Cavs. It's only a 7.5-point spread right now on a 208 total, which is a higher total and a lower spread than I would have expected for a Cavaliers and Brooklyn game. Now, at the moment, we got Kyrie, who's not playing well, and we got Kevin Love, who's kind of banged up. So LeBron's averaging just shy of 60 fantasy points over the last 2 games, as he's picked up most of the slack for, Love being out the one game and then Kyrie not playing well recently. Now, the thing I like about LeBron is his price was up over 10K, and recently we've been paying $9,800, $9,900 for him. His price is now down to $9,200. At $9,800, $9,900, you really need about 55 to 60 fantasy points out of him just to feel comfortable. Down at 9,200, that drops down into like the 48 to 52 range. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but 10 fantasy points is a big difference. LeBron had been averaging a little bit over 45 fantasy points for, 4 or 5 of his most recent games before the last 2. With the slight tick up that he has in minutes and usage and production because of Kyrie not playing well and Love being out, he's been seeing about 60 fantasy points in the last 2 games. If you get him at 9,200 and he gives you 60 fantasy points, now that's actually upside for you. That has him at 6.5 to 7x, and he's a guy that's giving you value added and can help you on a lineup that gets over 300. When we were paying up 10K for him and he was giving us 45 to 55 fantasy points, he was leaving us a little behind the pace that we needed in order to have a top flight winning roster in a tournament. So that's why he wasn't really somebody who we recommended. But with the price drop and with his production up, I think now is a good time to take a look at LeBron James. Next guy I want to talk about is Al-Farouq Aminu, who's down to 3,700. He's in the game with the 212 total against the LA Clippers today, and the Clippers have a pretty weak wing defense, so it's not a bad spot for Al-Farouq Aminu here. Now, Aminu is back up to over 30 minutes a game. He had dipped down into like the 24, 25-minute range, and that's what caused his price to dip from over 5K down under 4K. He has 27 and 33 fantasy points in the last 2 games, and his price just dropped from the last game from 4,000 down to 3,700. Now, at 4,000, he gave us 6 and 8x value on his 27 and 33 fantasy point games. If he can get us back into the 25 to 35 fantasy point range at 3,700, that's going to be a minimum of 7x with a upside that could be up to 10x for him. So with the price drop here and with his recent production up, again, this is a guy whose production and minutes are going up and his price is coming down. This is when we want to invest in somebody like Al-Farouq Aminu. Next guy we're going to talk about is Brook Lopez, who's also in a similar situation. He's got a matchup with the Cavs, which on paper is not a very good one, but the Cavs haven't been as great against the center position as they had been earlier in the year. Lopez had played pretty well, but he's been banged up, so the last couple games his numbers have actually dipped, and because his numbers have dipped, we've seen his price dip as well. He's gone from over $8,000 down to $7,300, which is the cheapest that we've seen him in a while. Now, he did sit out a game to rest because they had a bunch of games back to back to back, and it looks like when he returned for the last game last night that he was kind of rejuvenated. He went for 29, 9, and 6 against Charlotte, so that's a really good play and a really good stat line that he's given us. He gave us about 48 fantasy points there, which would be almost 7x at his price of $7,300 today. He's a very high usage player when he's out there on the floor. And if this game does stay close, as Vegas expects it to, I do think we're going to get a big score out of Brook Lopez in the 40 range. Now, the last guy I want to talk about is Kristaps Porzingis. He's got a rematch of the game that they played just last night against the Chicago Bulls. the Bulls are not really a team that's been known to stop big men. So I think it's a good spot for Kristaps Porzingis here. And he's back up to playing over 30 minutes a game. So after coming off injury and being banged up, the last 3 games he's played at least 30 minutes, if not more, and he scored 28 to 44 fantasy points in those last 3. His price has dropped from 5,800 down to 5,400, and he's coming off a 44-point game last time out against the Bulls. At almost 6K, that's still a 7x return at 44, but with the price dropping down now to 5,400, if he can get us 40 fantasy points again, we're looking at an 8x kind of return that'll put us on pace for a roster over 350 and a big chance to cash in some of these GPPs. So that's basically what I wanted you guys to understand today, is that you got to take a look at the price, because the price really dictates who the plays are. You know, there's very little difference on most days between 2 or 3 players at a similar position. You know, take a day like today, for example. You have guys like Kevin Durant, LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, and Paul George, who are all in a, you know, similar 45 to 50 point range on most of the projections that you look at here. And the price is differing by, you know, anywhere between $500 to $600 off of them to, you know, from Carmelo to LeBron, it's about a $1,200 difference. You really got to be sure that you're going to get that 6 or 7 fantasy points you need for that extra $1,000 out of LeBron if you want to take him over a guy like Carmelo. So when these prices move $400 or $500 in either directions, it could really change how good of a play some guy becomes. He could still be a solid play on value for a floor, but it definitely saps some of the upside you have. And like I said, with a guy like LeBron at 10K, with him scoring 45 to 55 fantasy points most game, there's not much upside there because you need him to get over 60 to really give you some value added. But when you drop him down to the 9K range where, you know, 55 and up is actually value added, you know, he's in a good spot there where if he does put up 60, which we know he's capable of it's you know, within this realm of possibilities, you know, he's actually going to be a guy that can help you win the tournament instead of just somebody that you want to use when you have a lot of money left and you want something safe for your cash game. So keep that in mind. The price changes and, you know, some of the sales prices that we see today are going to make some of these guys pretty good plays. There's obviously going to be some value that opens up. We've been seeing it almost every day in NBA. You know, someone's going to sit out, somebody's going to be hurt, somebody's not going to play, and there's going to be a $3,000 or $4,000 guy that pops up between now and then. But until we get to that point, these are some of the guys who I'm looking at and putting in my early rosters, guys that I'm going to be trying to build around tonight and take advantage of. So thank you guys for joining us here at rotocurve.com. And as always, stay classy, DFS.